Nearly 300 musicians and singers from SUNY Potsdam's Crane School of Music joined together this past week to celebrate the season with the Crane Candlelight Concert that has become a treasured holiday tradition not only here in the North Country, but across the nation. The Crane Chorus and Crane Symphony Orchestra performed 2 concerts in the Helen Hosmer Concert Hall, including several numbers with special guest soloist Lisa Vroman, the Broadway and opera star who was a Crane School alum. And Michael Sitton, who is the Dean of the Crane School of Music, joins us now. Welcome. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Many of our viewers, even viewers nationwide, look forward to watching the Crane Candlelight Concert every year on PBS stations across the country. How many years has it been on PBS now?
The broadcast started in the early 2000s, around 2001. So I guess that makes it about 18 years now.
And here in the North Country, it truly has become a holiday tradition.
It's actually a tradition that goes way back. From what I've been able to find out, it started maybe as far back as the 20s or 30s when it was an event for the community in Potsdam and the surrounding community. It went on for many years and was held in various locations. This is before the current Crane building was built. It went on hiatus for a while and came back in 1978. This was after the construction of the building in Hosmer Hall where it's now held. So from that time on, it's been a constant and has featured choral groups and orchestra, and as I mentioned, and began to be broadcast in the early 2000s.
And tell us a little bit more about the Crane School of Music for those folks who aren't familiar.
The Crane School of Music is, first of all, it's one of the schools that make up SUNY Potsdam, so it's one of the components of the State University campus in Potsdam. It is one of the oldest music education institutions in the country. There's an extraordinary woman, Julia Crane, who was born in Potsdam and had an idea about training teachers for music in schools, which was at the time really visionary. There wasn't a really strong idea about how you'd be prepared to be a teacher. So she started at first her own institute in 1886, which then shortly thereafter became part of the Potsdam Normal School, which was a teacher training institution, and ultimately became the Crane School of Music. But it all goes back to Julia Crane's idea about training teachers, and then later expanded to include performance and other forms of music, including music business, composition theory, history, and so on.
And she was a music teacher herself?
She was a teacher, yes, and a teacher with a strong idea about what it took to be a teacher, I think.
And had a vision of wanting to create a school
to teach prepare teachers,
music educators of tomorrow.
It's hard for us to imagine now because we kind of think if you want to be a teacher, you need some special preparation. In those days, the idea of being a music teacher had not really formed yet, and she contributed a great deal to that.
And the school attracts some of the best young musicians from New York State and beyond?
Yeah, certainly all over New York State, some beyond as well, but we are a fixture in New York, I think one of the premier options for studying music in the state. We audition all over the state, and our students come truly from all over, from a strong contingent from Long Island, New York City, from Western New York, Central New York, as well as the North Country.
And many of the students will be the musicians and the music educators of tomorrow.
Particularly the educators. Over half of our students, that is well over 300 students currently, are music education majors and are preparing to be teachers.
And some of your very talented alumni, of course. Renee Fleming, the world-famous opera singer and soprano, star of the Metropolitan Opera and Broadway.
Yes. And Renee Fleming, I like to point out, her degree from Crane is in music education.
As is?
Stephanie Blythe,
And Lisa Vroman also, who was
Lisa.
the special guest for
Yes.
this year's concert.
Absolutely.
A soloist, also a music educator.
Absolutely, yes. And Lisa's has been a wonderful alum, a committed friend of the institution, has been very generous with her time, not only in this year's Candlelight performance, but in several other things this year, and frequently as a guest to do master classes and other visits.
And one of the highlights of this year's concert, of course, was her solo performances that added a special element to the concert for this year.
It certainly added a very special element for us. One of the things that the Candlelight Concert does is connect to us with our alumni. We like to think it's a gift to the community and to the larger community, but our own alumni enjoy attending it and now viewing it on television and by our video stream. So Lisa was kind of a special connection to those alumni out there who are viewing the concert all over.
And she is a renowned soprano, performing
Absolutely.
on Broadway and with some of the best theater and opera companies across the country.
Yes, particularly in Broadway, cabaret, numerous orchestral performances. It's been a wonderful career, and she continues to sing all over the world, literally. She's toured China recently and elsewhere, sings in Europe frequently.
And while she was in Potsdam, our arts producer Paul Larson caught up with Lisa and asked her about returning to Crane and being part of this year's Candlelight Concert.
When I was here in the 70s, Hosmer Hall was being created. So there were no, all these beautiful organ pipes were not installed yet. So my freshman year, we did the Berlioz Requiem. Now for little kids from upstate New York, very green, all of a sudden you're in a chorus of 300 people, full orchestra. There were boxes before, so they had 4 antiphonal brass quartets, 16 timpani across this empty space, and the chorus and orchestra, and it made a lot of sound. And we were that was the beginning of the thrill of what the power of choral music is for you. My mother was a choral music educator, so I kind of came by it rightly.
What's it like for you to be on this stage doing this show in a place that has so much history for you?
Well, it feels like there is coming home aspect, and many of the people in the audience tonight I've sung for many, many years. My solfege teacher, Dr. Gibbs, was here today, and all these people are the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing. So to honor it and to come back, and I still have family in the area. My brother teaches the 6th grade in town. My sister-in-law is the alumni director of Potsdam. My stepfather was a Crane chorus conductor until '92, Calvin Gage. And my entire family has gone to Potsdam. We're our own little alumni group, we like to call it.
When you're singing and when you're looking at the kids in the choir, the young aspiring singers, what does that do for you, and what do you think about them?
Well, this year's been really interesting. This semester, I've been able to come back 3 times. This is the 3rd. It's happened so quickly. I thought, oh, I'm having so much time there, and now it's all gone. The first was my solo cabaret, and I used some of the students in a little flash mob in the middle of it, got to know them. And then I was here for 3 weeks as a guest artist in the new opera they did by Tom Cipulo. It was a premiere, so I spent 3 weeks with them. And now many of these kids are in the choir, and there's also many, many non-majors in this huge group, which it was. The same thing happened when I was in school. A lot of non-majors who sang in high school, they end up loving being part of this group because they wanted music in their life. It's so important, as we know. One of the biggest things for me is the bulk are going to be our next wave of music educators. They're the front line for inspiring kids to have music in their lives. The more experiences they get, and I think Crane, of all the schools that I see all over, is unique to giving those very, very meaningful experiences. And so as far as being a teacher, coming back and as an alumni and kind of telling them, giving them a chance to talk to me and to say what your career path is going to be. You can't have another person's career. It's your own. I studied education and then went to classical music and then kind of swim between a lot of genres musically, but I feel like the skills I learned here is what is sustaining me for the long run.
What is special about this Christmas show?
It's my first time working with Jeffrey Frankum. I find him one of the warmest delightful people, great musician. The spirit of this group of kids who love to be together and sing together and play together is, it's palpable. And the holidays are coming at a right time. I mean, the world is crazy, the news is disturbing constantly. We in this room today got to have a break from that. And I think that's the gift that music does for all of us.
You can watch Paul's entire interview with Lisa Vroman on demand on our website at mountainlake.org. And while there, you'll also find some bonus clips of the Candlelight Concert that won't make it into our 60-minute broadcast. That's coming up December 17th. That's this coming Monday. You can watch the Crane Candlelight Concert at 9 p.m. here on Mountain Lake PBS. And once again, we are pleased to be joined by Dean Michael Sitton of the Crane School of Music. So wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you.
You were one of the guest conductors for the Candlelight Concert. Is that a tradition to have the Dean?
I wouldn't say it's a tradition. It's something that Jeff Frankham, the choral conductor who was frequently on stage this year, he had the idea of doing this several years ago and asked me to conduct a sing-along, which I did. And I think part of the idea is he thinks we might have other guest conductors at some point to conduct a sing-along. So I think it's a nice addition to the concert.
And about 300 musicians altogether, the chorus and the symphony orchestra
on
together?
Stage, yes, and our total enrollment right now is about 540. So that's a majority of the school actually on stage at the time.
And is this one of the highlights of the year for the Crane School of Music and certainly for the academic year, the Candlelight Concert?
It certainly is in terms of the number of people who see it both live. We fill or nearly fill the hall twice, and then the broadcast that takes it to many others outside Potsdam and outside New York for that matter. It's also one of the 2 times each year when we have the Crane Chorus, which is our large combined chorus. The other one is in the spring when we have an annual concert with the orchestra of a major choral work or works, and we bring a guest conductor in for that concert. So that's our other highlight. It's in May each year. So I encourage those who are in the area to think about looking for that one in May.
And does the planning and preparation for this go on all year?
Oh, certainly, yeah. The conductors are thinking about that. They're already thinking about next year's now as they look ahead to next year.
And you mentioned, of course, being seen nationally now. What does that mean to you and to Crane to have this broadcast by PBS across the country?
I think we see ourselves, and I think it's fair enough as a player in the national scene for music schools. We are a large music school. When you look at others across the country, we have an outstanding faculty and a high level of students, and I think it's a nice way to recognize that profile by sharing it in a national way with broadcast. So it's a way to share what we're doing way up here in the North Country with the world that maybe doesn't have an opportunity to visit us in person.
Michael Sitton, thank you very much for taking the time
to be
with us.
Very welcome, thank you.
The Crane Candlelight Concert will premiere this coming Monday, December 17th at 9 p.m. here on Mountain Lake PBS and be rebroadcast on Sunday, December 23rd at 3 p.m. and then again on Christmas Eve, Monday, December 24th at 8 p.m. The concert will also be syndicated nationally on PBS stations across the country.